For weeks, I've been struggling with a subject that maybe you guys could help me out in terms of how do I go about the approach of cancer that's related to weight. We are seeing that younger and younger people are actually experiencing diagnoses that are quite concerning. And it's hard for me to try to figure out the conversation that we can have that could be a compassionate, kind conversation in terms of how do we go about health promotion and prevention related to all the chronic diseases, which does include cancer. And the reason why I have something to say about it is to do with, right, that's kind of my line of work. I'm not going to go into the details of that because it is not appropriate for this discussion, but I just wanted to sort of figure out the best way that we can have a conversation in terms of how do we advance the mutual desire of all of us to actually have, cancer, and how do we prevent all these diseases. So anyway, good morning, friends. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jessica, and I engage in conversations about weight loss, weight-related disease education, and how to achieve weight loss in an affordable way that honors your way of living. One of the things that I struggle, like I was saying, is how do we have a conversation about cancer, and why are we having a conversation? Well, statistically speaking, there's a lot of studies coming out that younger and younger people are being diagnosed, while there is an amount of genetic aspects to it, and also, of course, obviously lifestyle, because the gun is the environment, and the gun is the genes, and the trigger, the environment. Is because are we concerned as a whole, as a society, on disease? And I never really was able to have this conversation without it being problematic for me, because there's an amount of putting the patient in a spot that might not be the most compassionate, because at the end of the day, nobody deserves cancer and nobody buys into it, right? And we don't want to go to that sphere. But how do we promote health? How do we promote prevention as a collective? Do we observe that everyone do we treat being overweight as a disease, which we did. We have now put a label. This obesity is a chronic disease, which is absolutely, because it's hard to get off of that sphere of how do we manage our weight, because it's not easy. Believe me, 45 years I have been obese, right? So how do we figure this out in terms of society? Does it start with one person? And certainly we have now are exploring Ozempic and Mounjaro, all these medications, and I am a promoter of whatever works, because while I don't take it, I am not a proponent of not putting it on the table. I think if it helps people, absolutely. Gastric bypass, that's freaking fantastic. I would say that if that helps you, that's wonderful. That wasn't my choice. but that was my choice, and I think there is that amount of choice that is. But going back to how do we address the recent concerns about, there was a TikTok doctor saying that now they're seeing 20-year-olds being diagnosed with colon cancer, and obviously that is concerning for us, because those are our children, right? And it's the younger generation, so it is quite concerning. But inherently, how do we have a compassionate conversation about cancer? So in the end, this is what I want to say about it. Regardless of whether you have any diagnoses or a grievous diagnosis like cancer, it would be really wonderful for the person to try their best. Now, is again, this I say with the most. It's very hard for me to find words, but it would be in all our best interests to continue to promote fitness, movement, and for us to, prioritize protein and vegetables as our meals. Why? Because while we're going through treatments, whatever happens, we're not in control of what happens. And we're not also in control of to a certain extent, to the controls of the treatments that are available. As such, it is in our best interest for us to be as fit and as well as possible in order for us to be able to have treatment and survive treatment and be able to withstand treatment, because treatment is also a lot of work. So we need the stamina. And if we are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, if we cannot even get up from a chair, that is a concerning situation. So why is it hard, again, because why is it hard for me to talk about this? Because there's an amount of compassion that really needs to be addressed to each and every individual. But in essence, someone has to start the conversation about how, as a collective, all of us thrive, especially in our 50s, right? So I hope that this was helpful and not as judgy as I think it was going to come out. I have been struggling with this topic for a very long time, and I don't think that there's merit nor there is useful to spew out statistics or even education about cancer, because we all inherently know what it all is. I think the conversation that I want to bring in is to do with how do we observe wellness despite our diagnoses. I wish you health and happiness.